sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at ubnradio.com.
Live from Sunset Gower Studios, The Amazing Hour with Joanne O'Brien and Sabrina Johnson.
There's a power here within me. There's a strength that's deep inside. If I'm willing to be willing, the field is open wide. And I know I have the courage, so I push my fears aside and allow these words of truth be heard from every mountain high. I am amazing, I am amazing. There's nothing I can't do. I am amazing, I am amazing. And you're amazing too. We share a vision, we share a dream. Are you ready? Slow and steady, we are making history. 'Cause we are amazing.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Amazing Hour. We are live at UBN Radio at Sunset Gower Studios, and Amazing Hour celebrates everyday superstars. And I'm a superstar, and I'm Joanne O'Brien, and this is
Sabrina Johnson. And that song you heard, that beautiful song with those wonderful lyrics, was written by Joanne O'Brien and sang by Joanne O'Brien as well.
Thank you. I actually did not write it alone. I wrote it with an incredible songwriter and musician, Mary Eckler. So Mary and I wrote that song together, and my dear friend Tony Campodonico produced it, and my amazing friend Adam A.J. Jackson did backup vocals. So
I told Joanne before the show, I said, I was in Daily Grill with a friend, and I said, you got to hear this song. And it was like really not such a great recording on Facebook. And she said, imagine if this was piped into every office in every school, every place. Wouldn't people just, it just makes you just feel so wonderful and just the truth of who we are. And we're just here and so happy that you're here with our inaugural show, celebrating together. And
yeah, this is our first show. So thanks everyone for being here.
Yeah.
It's our first show. So, let's see. Okay, but since it's our first show, we need to tell you who it's sponsored by. And the show today is sponsored by two incredible people. The first is Cheryl Gottemuller. And Cheryl did the graphics for the show. So that beautiful banner that you see that has the clock, that was done by Cheryl. And Cheryl's website is cherylstudios.com. So take a peek there. And then also, Laura Wagner was the photographer for our headshots. And so you can go visit Laura at laurawagnerphotola.com. So we are so grateful for your sponsorship, because without people like you, this show wouldn't happen. Well, I guess you're wondering why we're wearing Mardi Gras beads.
because they're pretty.
Because they're pretty, but also because it is to honor our very first guest on the show. We are so excited to have the author of Meanwhile Back at Cafe Du Monde.
Yay.
Yay! Right here, Meanwhile Back at Cafe Du Monde. And the host of the radio show Savoring The Sweetness, and she is sitting right here next to me, and that is Peggy Sweeney McDonald.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored and privileged to be your first guest. Congratulations, you two wonderful women. This is amazing what you're doing, this amazing hour. And I think you're going to be great host of the show.
Thank you. Well, what's really amazing is that Peggy brought us beignets.
It's all about
So
beignets.
it's all about the food.
All the way from Cafe Du Monde, also known as Farmer's Market in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they're not the real Cafe Du Monde beignets, but the gumbo pot will do in a pinch if you can't go to New Orleans. If you can't fly to New Orleans and go to the real Cafe Du Monde and have the real beignets and the whole experience. Like I say, you know, you got to take life one beignet at a time, and you really have to do that at Cafe Du Monde, listening to the jazz in the streets and seeing all the people. But if you can't, go to the farmers market in LA, and like we, you know, we're pretending it's Mardi Gras in May, right?
Mardi Gras in May, and it's
love it.
Tuesday.
Fat Tuesday.
Fat
Tuesday. It's our Tuesday.
Yeah.
I love that. And you know, in LA, we can always, this is the land of make believe.
It
So
is.
we can believe it's Mardi Gras every day if we want.
So, well, we both, Sabrina and I, have been really blessed to be cast in one of your shows, meanwhile, back at Cafe Du Monde, and we had the greatest time, and we're just so excited. We want you to tell us a little bit about, and tell everybody about Meanwhile back at Cafe Du Monde, and how that kind of
all that began. Well, I was an actress turned event producer. I was a meeting and event producer for years. And I got laid off 7 years ago. You know, corporate world wasn't doing the big meetings anymore with the big budgets. So I got laid off, started my own company, which I named, which is pretty funny. I named it Superstar Events LA because LA could be for Louisiana or Los Angeles. And because, you know, I wanted to be a superstar. At that point, I didn't feel like much of a superstar. But I started my own company, and you know, I got some nonprofit events, some association meetings, but it was really tough because no one was really doing the big splashy themed meetings, which was my forte. So I ended up wanting to stick my head in the oven. I went through a really bad depression, and someone said, Peggy gets depressed, because, you know, I always have a smile on my face, even when I'm depressed. You know, I always want to be up and be Peggy Sunshine, but I was not. Deep down, I was really low. And so I went back to Louisiana for Thanksgiving 4.5 years ago, and my girlfriend saw on Facebook that I was in Baton Rouge and at my mom and dad's, and she said, I'm in Shreveport doing a movie. Can I come down? I said, come down come for Thanksgiving. She said, I can't. I have to go to the Orphan Thanksgiving with all the LA people working on the movie in Shreveport. So she came the day after, and she stood in my mom's kitchen, and I said, how was your Thanksgiving? And she told me the coconut pie and a bottle of wine story, which is now legendary, which inspired me to create Meanwhile back at Cafe Du Monde. She told me the story about how she drank a bottle of wine the night before Thanksgiving and ended up eating the whole coconut cream pie she had bought to bring to the Thanksgiving at her boss's the next day. Well, you know, we've all been there, right? We have all been there. So we were all laughing, and I said, tell my mom, tell my cousin, tell my niece. It got funnier and funnier, and I said, this is like the vagina monologues of food, and I need to create my own show. And then I thought, no, it's an event, because I had no money to rent a theater. I was like, you know what? I heard that night, I really believe it was divine inspiration, because I heard, do this show at a restaurant, because it's about food. You need to eat and drink. So, you know, the first show was 4 years ago, May 16th. So I just had like the 4-year anniversary. I've done over 60 shows. Over 300 people have shared their food stories, including you guys. Everyone from, you know, restaurant owners, actors, writers, musicians, chefs, Food Network people, politicians. It's just been an amazing journey. And so I started doing the shows at restaurants. And the first show, of course, I did it in Louisiana, because I was from there, and I knew everybody in Louisiana has a food story. And then, you know, I realized everyone everywhere has a food story. And so it's been really special. I mean, I do the shows, like I did it at House of Blues here in LA. I've done it at Sonoma Wine Garden in Santa Monica. I've done it at the Raz Room in San Francisco. I've done all over Louisiana and Mississippi. And then at the first show, I had, you know, I heard in my mind, I was looking at these, we were at the Myrtles Plantation where the first show was, and there was all these coffee table books in their gift shop. And I heard in my mind, this show would be a great coffee table book. And I hadn't even seen the first show. And so I was inspired to create a book, and, you know, so it's been just like an amazing journey between the shows and then the book, and trying to create a book and learning about producing a book, and then the book came out a little over a year ago, and it's just been, you know, it's just been a crazy journey that keeps, I say it's a gift that keeps on giving. It just keeps growing, and who knows where it's going next.
I love the book. I mean, I told Peggy, I said, that's my book, and it's tagged for recipes, because it's not just about life stories about food, but it's great recipes.
Yes, there's 67 food stories from the shows, the Louisiana food stories, and plus really great
Easy, free
recipes.
cobbler.
Yes, that cobbler is the best cobbler I've ever made. And if you want to go to a party and be a hit,
That was what it was
it's
for.
easy. Make it. You can make it with any kind of fruit. My jambalaya, my jam and jambalaya is in there, and my friend Kim, who's came with me today, she knows my jambalaya is really, it's the best jambalaya ever. Chicken and sausage jambalaya, and it's pretty easy to make. So it's just been, it's been endorsed by Emerald and Rex Reed in New York. I was really lucky to have a lot of great endorsements, and it's done really well. I've gotten lots of great reviews on, Amazon. I think I have almost 50 reviews from people who've read it, and it's one of those books that will touch your heart and your soul and your tummy.
It does. And Leah Chase, that people know now from the Top Chef, making that appearance there.
Yes, Miss Leah.
And her grandson.
Her grandson, Edgar, both of their stories are in the book. She's 92 now, and her story about cooking gumbo for Obama before he was the president.
Oh, can you tell that story?
Yes.
Pretty
So-
please. I love that story.
So he came into the restaurant, and they were in a hurry, and he was catching a plane, and he wanted fried chicken. She said, well, she fries her chicken from scratch, for each person. It's not like it's sitting in a tray. And she says, well, it's going to take a little time, and why don't I serve you some gumbo while we fry your chicken, and then we'll wrap up the chicken. You can take it on the plane. So she serves him the gumbo, and he reaches for the hot sauce. And she says, Mr. Obama, no one puts hot sauce on my gumbo. So she said right from the very beginning, she had like a falling out with the president. But anyway, so she, the book has all these great stories. It's not like they're stories about how to make jambalaya or gumbo. They're stories about life around food, and everyone can relate to them because it's all about, I just saw the movie Chef, and that movie is about food, friendship, love, family, and they go to Cafe Du Monde. I mean, it was like I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, they're at my place.
When Peggy and I were talking earlier, we said, oh, what did you see Chef? She goes, yeah, if that's not a sign that you're really in the right place.
Yes, sometimes I get so, it's been such a, an up and down, a path. Whenever you follow, step out on a leap of faith and follow your dream. And this was a little dream that just kept getting bigger and bigger. And now I'm shopping the idea around for a TV show, and I'm hoping that it lands somewhere. And, I'm doing my Savoring the Sweetness, which is my own food talk show on the internet.
Tell us a little bit about Savoring the Sweetness.
So Savoring the Sweetness all came out of me being on the Actors Entertainment. Pepper J is this producer in LA who has this amazing studio that she produces all these internet talk shows. And it's, it's not just, it's, on the internet, it's, you're in a studio and it's you in a director's chair. I had been there as a guest for the Actors Entertainment show she does, talking about being an ex-actress, creating my own show. Now I'm back on stage. And then they had me come back when the book came out and talking about the journey of the book. And so I asked her to be in my show, and so she was in my show. I did a show at Tom Bergen's, a couple of them last year, 2013. So she was in one of the shows, and then we went to lunch because we always really liked each other, and so we went to have lunch one day, and I said, I'd love to do a food chat show with you while I'm trying to sell the Meanwhile idea for a television show. And so she looked at me, she goes, I'd love to have a food show. So it's not a cooking show, it's just talking about food. It's usually me with a chef and a foodie. It doesn't necessarily have to be a chef or a restaurant owner. I just had Erica Karakash, who created Not Ketchup sauces, the fruit-based sauces.
Savory ketchup.
I've had Susan Irby, the bikini chef, who is, all about health and nutrition. I just had a cookbook author, Jessica Porter, who does she has 3 cookbooks, and one of them is The Hip Chick's Guide to Macrobiotics.
I've seen that.
That's a really cool book. So it's just people. We talk food. We talk food stories. I say we talk about our edible journeys, our tasty tales, and our passions and inspiration all around food, because everyone loves to talk about life around food, I
love to talk about food. Well, if someone wanted to watch your show, Savoring the Sweetness, when would they listen, or where would they go?
It airs live on the internet on Thursdays at 2:00. So this Thursday at 2:00, you can go to savoringthesweetness.com, and right around 2:00, sometimes we're a few minutes late, it comes on. It's a half-an-hour show, and then the link is on. It lives there forever. So if you go to savoringthesweetness.com, there's 8 shows up. I'm getting ready to do my 9th show this week.
And who will be your guest?
Yes, Chef Ken Novak from Citron Catering. Citron Catering is one of the premier event catering companies in Los Angeles, and he actually catered an event I did for the Premier Oncology Foundation almost 3 years ago, and we became friends, and then we ran into each other at an event this past year, and he ended up doing the food for the Taste Awards, which I always go to, and we just keep crossing paths, and so I called him last week and said, I want you to come and be on my show, and he loves the book,
yes.
and he said yes. Well, he loves to talk about food, and we'll have lots to talk about, I'm sure.
So how do you pick your guests so far? Have they been in your shows? Or
Well, it's weird because, of course, I have all these people who have been in Meanwhile Back at Cafe Du Monde live shows in Los Angeles that, of course, those were the first people that I reached out to. Susan Irby has, from the Bikini Chef, she's emceed a bunch of shows, and so she was my first guest. We've become really good friends and been on a journey together. So she came on my show first, and then Chef Ryan Rondino, who's a chef I know from New Orleans, who's a private chef. He came, he's never been in Meanwhile, but I've always wanted him to be and share his food stories, so he came. So, there's just people that I've met. I mean, I know so many foodies that, I could do the show every day with a different guest, really, because I have so many friends who love to talk about food. But there's so many food stories here in Los Angeles, too. The next book could be Meanwhile Back at Cafe Du Monde, the California food stories.
Well, I want to hear a couple things about, I look at your branding and I look at your packaging, and I've seen your show, and everything seems incredibly seamless. And so I just want to hear a couple of the really good, down and dirty, behind the scenes stories of what almost happened, what didn't happen, because it always seems glamorous when you're right there in the moment, and what it took to get you there. So give us a couple good juicy stories about that.
Okay, so
kind of like when you're in the trenches. So.
For the first show in LA, it was going to be at House of Blues in the Foundation Room. Well, we had too many reservations, so then they said, well, it'll be in the restaurant, and we'll have the buffet, and then we'll have this little staging area in the restaurant on a Sunday night. Great. Well, that afternoon, I was getting my nails done at like 3 o'clock, and I was going to be at House of Blues by 5. And they called and they said, we have too many reservations. We're going to do the show in the music hall. And I'm thinking, okay, I've done events in the music hall. That is a huge stage. And I'm like, how am I going to have this little show? Because my set is basically like you're sitting at a Cafe Du Monde table with mugs and a plate of beignets and the little napkin holder, which is the menu. So I said, this is crazy on that big stage. It's going to look horrible. And I started thinking, what am I going to do? And I thought, okay, what if it was 10 people in that show. I said, what if we do 5 of them sitting in bar stools behind the little table, like at an angle, and then Christine Devine from Fox News was the MC, so she would sit on the bar stool too, and she would come down and introduce you, and then you'd pop off your bar stool and go sit at the little table and tell your food story, and then so it was really kind of cool the way it happened. And then the other good thing, they had this giant screen that they had come down, on before the show started, so we all sat in our bar stools, and we showed slides of the previous shows that had happened in Louisiana or wherever. So we had these slides of the first show, and all these people had been in the shows. And then when the show started, the screen came up, and there we were, and it was just like kind of a grand entrance. It was really cool the way. But you have to think on your feet, you're like, oh my gosh,
you're a producer, and the show's got to go on. You got to do it.
Yes.
And you really had to think, because I think when you told the story, you said you were at getting your nails done.
Yes,
the
I'm
hour
like,
before.
Okay, I had my makeup done, my nails done. I got all glammed up because, oh my God, we're doing it in House of Blues. It was my first show in LA. I was so excited because all my LA friends who had heard about this show that had been going on in Louisiana were finally getting to see it, and that was August of 2010. So it's just, that was one of the biggest shows ever. It was a great fun time, and of course they put out a great Louisiana buffet. It's always fun to get to eat, and it's all like a party. Well, you guys know
it is like a party.
So both of you had amazing food stories, and it's like
we had fun stories.
It's fun. It's from the heart. The stories, just people connect to them in such a great way. And after, people always come up and say, this was so great, I loved it. It's so different. It's really different. So, and then for the book, I was telling y'all, I think, I had this idea for the book. I thought it'd be great to have a coffee table book with stories and pictures and recipes of all these people. And I called Pelican Publishing, and, they didn't come to the first show. And of course, in my mind, I was like, well, to hell with them. They didn't like it. I'll call somebody else. And then I thought, oh, it's a stupid idea. I'll never be how your mind goes into that.
Doubt.
You go through that. Yeah. It's tunnels down to that negativity. And then I kind of prayed about it for a month or so. And then somebody had emailed me and said, this is the best show I've ever seen about food in Louisiana. And I hope you're taping it because in 30 years, we'll want to remember what Miss Leah Chase had to say about food in Louisiana and her restaurant and cooking for Obama. So I thought, well, why don't I give them, another shot? And so I called him again and I said, I talked to some assistant. I said, you guys didn't come when I invited y'all 2 months ago. And I don't know where this came. It was like this confidence came over me. And I said, this is going to be a coffee table book. And I'd like to give y'all first refusal before I go to any other publisher. Like, I knew what I was talking about. I had no idea. And so they said, well, send us the information again. So I sent the information with that quote that woman had said, the best piece of oral history. And they called me within 10 minutes. They brought a whole team. I gave them a table of 10. They came that next night, and the next day the publisher called me and said, I think it's a great idea. Put together an outline of what you think you want your book to look like.
Oh, my God.
So,
and how long did it take?
Well, it was a journey. Okay, so he said that. I left. I had I ended up having to get a literary agent in New York and an entertainment attorney. So it was 9 months, actually, to negotiate the book deal. And then
start to finish, like have it actually in your hand?
No, 9 months for the book deal to have be in my hand. So then I signed it. I went back to Louisiana. I wanted it to be, it was like a rite of passage. So I wanted to go. I didn't want to just sign it in LA and send it in the mail. I was like, I got to go there and sign it in their office and take a picture of me signing the book deal. So I ended up getting back to LA after signing the deal. That was October 2011. And they sent me an email. Congratulations, you're soon going to be a published author. Here's a link of how to, send us your material in 3 months. I had a 3-month deadline if I wanted it to come out for the holidays of 2012, which, these books are gift items. Yes. These are big,
Total
so they're great
items.
for the holiday. In the South, coffee table cookbooks are like the thing people give. So I knew I wanted it to come out.
Southern living.
I wanted it to come out for the holidays. So I said, I'm going to do it. So when I looked at the instructions of how to submit the material and indexing, and each picture had to be sized and be DPI, and I don't even know what DPI meant at the time. And I felt like I was going to get sick. And my husband came in, and I must have been white sitting on the couch. He goes, what's wrong? I said, what did I do? What did I get myself? Oh, my God, I signed a contract to do a book. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like about to cry. And he's like, well, you're going to take it a day at a time. You're going to ask for help. And you can just show up. And if you have to be on the phone with their publisher every day and say, walk me through this. Mm-hmm. They know you've never done this before, Peggy, and just do an Excel spreadsheet, because 67 people had to give me their releases, their stories, their pictures, and our famous question on the shows in the book, if you were a food, what would you be and why? Which I think y'all need to tell us what you would be.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
I'll let you go
I know.
first. Okay, Okay.
Okay. Well, I would be a Hershey Kiss. And the reason I would be a Hershey Kiss is because, first of all, whenever you see a Hershey Kiss, it just makes you happy and you smile. Hershey Kisses, even if there's just one. But they also come in a ton of colors. And as you know me, I'm a very colorful person. I actually change colors, within a matter of seconds. And so it makes people happy. But then also, when you find a Hershey Kiss in the bottom of your handbag because you are looking for your keys and you're pissed off and you're in a bad mood, and you find that Hershey Kiss, it just changes your mood and it makes you totally happy. And so I thought, well, if I could be the Hershey Kiss moment for my friends when I come up on their cell phone or when I shoot them an email or I shoot them a text, I want to be the Hershey Kiss in all of my friends' lives.
I love that. You are the Hershey Kiss.
Kiss.
I love you. So Sabrina.
Well, on the show I said, I said I like to be an A because it has a hard kind of cover and then it's soft and with all the juicy, and then has potential. It can be so many different things. And then I've been sitting here lately and I thought, oh wow, I'd love to be like some kind of like lime sorbet because having those flashes. So that would be wonderful.
I love it.
What kind of food would you like to be?
Well, I say that, and I changed it in the book. I say I'm a Godiva chocolate. My sister, who's an attorney, said, don't say Godiva. You don't want them suing you. So in the shows, I always say, I'll be a Godiva chocolate. I come in a gold, shiny box with a ribbon on top. Sometimes I'm bitter. Sometimes I'm sweet. Sometimes I'm nutty, or a tasty combination, but always a treat.
I loved it. I was reading the book, and I thought, Leah Chase is what 90. When you asked her the question, she goes, "Well, I'd like to be this or that," and I thought, well, you had to give it to her,
right? Yeah,
yeah, you had to give it to her.
mean, and somebody said they would be. Oh, my friend Marla Manette. Did you read the story about the vodka?
I haven't read that.
Well,
one.
it's funny. It's her freezers in the South. Everybody has these freezers where they put all their frozen seafood and seafood and her husband came in. He was going to play golf, and he was getting in the garage, and he's like, oh, the freezer's off, you better take care of it. And he went to play golf, so everything was half defrosted, so you can't start freezing the food again. You have to start cooking it. So she cooked for days and days and invited everybody to come out. And she talks about what was in there, 5 rows, 20 pounds of shrimp, alligator, oysters. So she starts cooking all this food, and she says, now the only thing in my freezer is Grey Goose. So anyway, this cutest story. So yeah, that's one of our MCs came up with that.
That's great.
What food? He said, I think I'd like to invite the first New Orleans show. He said, I think I'd like to introduce everybody. If they were a food, what would I be and why? And everyone loved that. So it just kind of took off, and it's something that people love. And I've actually done book presentations at my niece and nephew's grade school, and of course I do. And I just did one actually in St. Monica's in Santa Monica 2 weeks ago, and I do that. I ask the kids, and kids love this book because they go through and read all the if I were a food, what would I be and why.
So well, you mentioned that this is a great gift item, and so we want to gift this book to somebody who's listening right now. Okay, so first of all, get out your pens and write down this phone number because you're going to have to call in. All right, so the number to call in is 323-843-2826. Okay, it's 323-843-2826. And Peggy has a question, and whoever gets the answer correct, we're going to send you a copy of Meanwhile Back at Cafe Du Monde. So let me just say that phone number one more time for the person who's finding the Hershey Kiss at the bottom of their handbag while they're looking for a pencil, because that would be me. 323-843-2826. 323-843-2826.
Now, if you get that number right and call in, you win. No, I'm sorry.
So do you
and
want
if
me
you
to
can
ask
spell
the question?
beignet.
Right.
Okay, so Peggy
So the
asked
question
the question.
is, besides Cafe au lait and beignets, what else does Cafe Du Monde have on their menu? It's very limited, so let us know what.
Let us know. Okay, so John, you're going to let us know. John's back there on headphones.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And running our show because we couldn't possibly do it.
So Peggy, I just
learned to Twitter.
But you have just learned. So Peggy,
You're still learning the Twitter.
I
don't
know.
worry.
You're the person I'm calling every single day because I can't do it right.
But I learn too, and that's part of the whole journey. It's we learn as we go, and
thank goodness we help each
being
other.
entrepreneurs, and and thank
goodness we help each other.
Thank goodness for the women that in my life, like you guys, that are my spiritual soul sisters.
You are so welcome.
We need each other. We need each other.
We do, and thank goodness we have all these different skills and talents. And so I have a question for you about Cafe Du Monde. When you, from what I understand, that was kind of like the place, when you break up with somebody, you go back to Cafe Du Monde.
Yeah, so
when job. So explain that a little
well,
bit.
my story, when I had this idea for the show, my friend Lisa and I were in New Orleans in the Quarter that weekend when she told me the story, and I told her to repeat it. And we went to Cafe Du Monde, and we're sitting there, and I said, Lisa, I couldn't sleep last night. I was thinking I want to create the show that we were talking about, and it's really an event. And she goes, I think it's a great idea. You need to do it. And I said, what can I name it? And then I went, oh, yes, I'm at Cafe Du Monde. It's like this. When I had lived in New Orleans with Jimmy, my New Yorker husband, we had lived there for 5 years before moving to L.A., we'd always go to Cafe Du Monde all the time. And every time we were there with our friends, I would always pick up my mug and say to my friends, Meanwhile, back at Cafe Du Monde, ... We would clink mugs at ... And they would laugh. And I had said 16 years before, that's a really great name. One name that could be like the name of a book or a play or the story of my life. So I remember that.
Can you hear? We've got somebody on the line. Okay, who's calling in?
Oh, hi, this is Marielle.
Marielle. Oh, my God.
Hi.
And I know you know it's a Cafe Du Monde because I have been to Cafe Du Monde with you.
I know.
Well,
goodness. You know what? I couldn't hear the first thing that they said besides beignets, so I'm taking a stab.
Okay, go for it.
Of the two that were listed, I think you said coffee and beignets, and I think the other one is hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah, you won.
Oh, there is. Well, there's one.
Is that it?
Absolutely.
Yes, there is. There's also this, but is that okay?
There's also orange juice.
There's
but
also
you know
orange
what?
juice.
I think you did great.
She did
so.
great.
Because I think we were hungover when we were there.
We were.
Y'all weren't drinking the hot chocolate or
Is
orange
this the
juice.
Marielle that got the privilege to have our first blooper? Is this the same Marielle?
It was. Yes, it is.
I love it. She got our first blooper that we're going to actually have to somehow get back from history for,
I love it. I love it.
It was great.
Okay, so that's Marielle Monte, who is one of my very best friends in the world, calling in from Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
I know, isn't that great?
Wow.
We've got people all over the country watching the show.
I love it.
So, Marielle, we're going to send you, meanwhile, back at Cafe Du Monde. And then when Peggy brings the show to Denver, I'm talking with my mouth full. I know it's rude, but
then I can sign it for you, Marielle.
And then you
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You could be one of the food shows.
You could be on one of the food shows.
Yeah.
So yay! Is there anything, Mel? You want to say to us while we have you on the air?
No, but I think you guys are doing a fabulous job, and I'm so excited for you. And it's a wonderful first guest. So congratulations.
Yes, we do have a wonderful. So now getting back to like the Cafe Du Monde, I love what you said at one point. You said everybody has their own.
Yeah.
Cafe Du Monde.
So that was my idea that this would be the name of it, and then. My story, of course, I had to write my story, and which was weird.
Wait, we've got another caller.
Sorry.
I love that.
We've got to interrupt because someone else is calling in.
What are they saying?
I don't know.
We're waiting on them to transfer him in. You go ahead, keep talking.
So,
okay, great.
So when I had
fun.
to write my story, I was scared to death. Like, oh my gosh, I thought I would I'll just produce the show, direct it. I'm not going to be in it. And then I thought, well, nobody's going to know what Meanwhile Back at Cafe Du Monde means. That's my story. So I had to write my story. I put it off. Finally, one night, I just sat down and wrote it. And my story is all about no matter where I live, no matter what's going on in my life, I always end up back at Cafe Du Monde. You know what you're ordering. You know it's delicious. You know you're with family and friends. And for that hour, life is wonderful because you're taking it one beignet at a time.
Oh my God! I think that I have to write a song.
I
think there's a song. I think there's
there's
a song.
Amazing beignets.
I love it.
One beignet at a time.
Well, and it's every. Someone said, well, Cafe Du Monde means Cafe of the World, and my husband's like, it's a metaphor. Everybody has a Cafe Du Monde. Everybody
it's
has
true.
that place.
That's right.
Yes.
They go, it's a place in your hometown that with first time you set foot back in your hometown, you're like, you're going to your place, and you know what you're ordering, you know how much it's going to cost, you know when it's open, and you know it's delicious, and they know your name.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even a restaurant, but like for me, like in LA, there's so many. But like for me, for many years, it was my knit store. So it's like there's places like that
That you
are
just feel at
There are
home.
cheers.
So what's your Cafe Du Monde in LA that you would go to eat?
Oh, that I would go to eat over and over and over again. I think it's like right now, it's this little restaurant in Studio City called Cedar House, and it's Mediterranean food. And for some reason, it's not that busy, and it's quiet, and it's a great.
That's where we went.
Yes.
We went for that ladies' luncheon.
Yes.
I love that place.
And it's a wonderful service, and you feel like you're at home because you can ask for just about anything that you want to what tailors, for your need, and it's wonderful.
And they have that delicious salad.
Yes,
oh,
that chicken salad.
What about you?
It's been a while since I've had a place that's my Cafe Du Monde, but I have to say, the Good Neighbor restaurant.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Good Neighbor.
Good
Yeah,
Neighbor,
right
yes.
over there on Cahuenga.
And
yeah.
mine would be Nat's.
Nat's.
You know,
Oh,
and Dr.
love
Mark and I,
Nat's.
that's our place.
Well, you know,
we go have breakfast and we
I
sit there and talk about food and show pictures of our iPhone food, recent food pictures of where
love
we
it.
ate, and
That's
and then
foodie.
we talk business. You know, so
That's our minister that she's talking. Well, you know, it's so funny because my tenants that live, you know, and that I rent a house to on my property, they said, you know, one of the benefits of this house is that it's so close to Nat's.
Yes. Well,
mean,
Nat's is, Nat's,
so
when
fun,
I
yeah.
first moved to Sherman Oaks, my old boss, this attorney I'd worked for, temp for about a year and a half when I was acting, he said, "Oh, you're right next down the street from Nat's." I said, "What's Nat's?" He goes, "Peggy, you and Jimmy will love it. It's like a New York diner. They have the best diner breakfast."
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I've waited an hour on Sundays to get in that little diner.
And my favorite part is the toy store next door.
The toy store
Because you
next
can
door.
wait and shop
Oh
for
my God,
toys.
there's great
Yes.
stuff in there. We should get them to be a sponsor because
Oh,
we're
they would be
promoting them.
great.
Yeah.
And Nat's
Yes.
too. We have all this. So, Peggy, the question I have is now you're doing Savoring the Sweetness and Cafe Du Monde, and it seems like things are just growing and growing.
Yeah.
And as you're doing this, like Joanne said, it seems like a seamless brand. But one of the things that we were kind of talking about is that I love that you're really doing this passion. I love what you said when we were talking. You said you really put your passion on simmer for a while, and now it's not.
Well, you know, after 9/11, I had worked for this crazy entertainment attorney for 4 months and gave my notice, and that was Friday, and then Tuesday was 9/11, and now I'm going to be out of a job in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, they said the economy was going to, tanking, and everybody was being laid off. So I actually got this job as a corporate, the assistant to a president of a worldwide company, and it was the biggest acting job I ever did in my life because I didn't tell them I was acting, an actress. I just went in there and I called my agents and said, I just retired. I just needed a job. I just needed some permanence of showing up and getting a big paycheck and having benefits. It's come to the point where your life, you just kind of throw in the towel, struggling to do your dream, and it's not going anywhere. And so I really feel like I put myself on the back burner and turned the flame off. It wasn't even simmering anymore. I stopped going to acting class. I just stopped everything. But there was a lot of good things that came out of it. I learned to become a producer. I ended up leaving him and working for the vice president of marketing and doing all their big meetings and events, where I got to create corporate videos and produce these huge events. So that was where I got my producer skills. But my creative, and I was able to be creative too. But I really feel like I was supporting somebody else's dream and their vision, and God pushed me out to start producing my own vision and shining myself, just shining my light again, and for me, not for somebody else. And it was, a lot of things happened, but it was like those steps were on the way. So now, I'm back on camera, I'm back on stage, I'm now emceeing, and, I've done some motivational speaking where I'm speaking to groups and talking and telling about, from going from sticking the head in the oven to creating this event and this book and, following my passion.
If somebody said that this is what your life was going to look like, would you have even believed it?
Well, no.
Because you know how people say that to you.
Yeah.
They go, you're not going to recognize your life in another year. And you're like, okay.
Oh,
Let me change all the
I know.
mirrors.
And I ran my old talent agent in Baton Rouge, my first talent agent in college. Her daughter is in my book and has been in my show, and Lori Cawthorn, and anyway, Lori's mom Dee they came to get the book and meet me at this place for coffee and beignets in Baton Rouge, and my old agent looked at me, she goes, "You're finally a celebrity." And she goes, "Can you believe?" I said, "I know. It took, I'm a late bloomer. I really am.
I'm a late bloomer,
I'm
for
a late
sure.
bloomer. But you know what?
You're
It's
blooming.
never too late." One of my girlfriends, Eugenie Bondurant, who hadn't done acting in 5 years, she just got cast in the Hunger Games Mockingbird 2. It's Mockingjay 2. It's all over the internet. I called her. I said, "Eugenie, are you ready for the resurgence of your acting career?" I mean, she didn't even have a Twitter account. And it was Lionsgate and Hunger Games, they were all twittering that Eugenie Bondurant was just cast as Tigress. It's a huge thing. People were waiting to see who was going to be cast to that.
I love it.
And she said, "Peggy, I'm standing here with my arms wide open. I'm ready for it.
Oh,
And
let's have her on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She's in Florida, but when she comes out here, I want her to come be on Savoring the Sweetness, and I want her.
Great.
She needs to
she
be
can
in your
have
show.
a whole radio show tour in Los Angeles.
But I mean, crazy.
You said that when you were a child, what were you doing? This is what I love.
When I was
you were a child,
when
what
I
were
was
you
a
doing?
child,
Right.
I was always putting on shows in the
love it.
backyard. My mom
I
and
love
my
it.
Aunt Margaret, they would put the sheets over the clotheslines and make like this stage.
And what are you
I'd
doing?
be out there with all the kids going, okay, you're going to do this, and they all would go, oh, Peggy is driving us crazy, you know. And I was so serious about it, and they were all goofing off, and I'd get so upset. I was putting on shows. So like now I'm putting on shows with all my friends, get to come be in my show and tell their food stories, and then we get to eat together.
I love it.
I love it. We did that too. I did gymnastic shows with my friend Susan Powell and Anita Dietrich. And we would have these gymnastic shows in Susan's basement, and we would play Olivia Newton-John, Have You Never Been Mellow? And we would make our mothers pay a nickel.
I love it.
And they would come, and we would do the show, and then we would kind of get distracted and like leave, and they'd still be sitting there, and we'd be doing cartwheels on the back lawn. And
no, I was never the distracted one.
I still
was
have the
right
ADD.
there telling them, get back on stage. All my little sisters, because I'm the oldest of 4 girls, so my little sisters and my friends in the neighborhood were always, my cast.
You were the director
and
producer.
And I remember this. My family used to go camping in the pop-up Starbucks, what are they called? Starcraft campers. And we'd go to, my dad say we're going to this campground, and I'd go, do they have an amphitheater stage? Because I couldn't wait to like gather little friends in the neighborhood, in the like camping area, and put on a show. Like if there was a stage where they would do these,
Did you cast animals too? Because we did Keystone Cops, and we cast the dog.
Oh no!
We did the manger, and the cat was Jesus.
I love it.
Until there was like a clawing bloodbath. But I have photos too, and I was the Blessed Mother. I know that some people find that hard to believe.
Of course you were.
But that's who I was.
But you didn't cast the animals. But I love this, that you had your dream as a child, and now you're doing this.
I love putting on shows, and now I'm putting on shows. Right? It's crazy.
And so the one thing that I really want to ask you before we even think about closing this time is that, when people talk about their dream, they want to do this, and then it's like, I really want to do this, and then, yeah, but I don't have the money.
I don't have the money. Yeah, look, I'm always like, okay.
How do you?
It just, I think, my husband is huge about leaps of faith. When we were leaving New York, and I wanted to move home because he was shot walking out of our building and got lost his left eye by a kid with a pellet gun. And when that happened in New York, my whole New York dream just like went down the drain. It was like, I want to move home. And it took me about a year to get him to finally move. And that's part of my story. Like he came to Louisiana kicking and screaming. He didn't, he was a New Yorker. He was not moving to frickin' Louisiana. I was out of my frickin' mind is what he told me. So finally we moved, and we, we didn't have jobs. We didn't have a place to live. We told the movers, we'll call you in a month. We had 30 days to tell them where to deliver it. We said, we'll call you. And Jimmy's like, everything's going to work out. I was like, what do you mean? You didn't get a job? You went down there and interviewed? And I was freaking out. And he's like, Peggy, everything's going to work out. It's a leap of faith. What's the movie with the leap of faith with Harrison Ford where he steps out and then the rock just...
I didn't see that.
The Romancing the Stone.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that.
I love that.
Yeah, so Jimmy always says, it's leap of faith. You just leap of faith. And, we both had jobs within a week. We had a great apartment. We had set our date for the wedding, in a week from arriving in Louisiana, and all worked out. So I think if you just know the universe is going to provide for you, like you just step out and say, it's going to happen. Like when my book was happening and they called me and they're like, well, you need to start finding endorsements. And I was like, endorsements? And they're like, yes, to put on the back of the book. I was like, whoa. So, my first endorsement, I got this email from someone I knew who's a Pulitzer Prize winner, Jeffrey Marks. He wrote A Season of Life, and I know he's in Baton Rouge, and people knew him. So I got in touch with him and called and left a message, and then I was on the plane going to do a meeting planner for these life coaches' retreat, and I opened up this Wayne Dyer book I had gotten at the library, and I'm reading, and Wayne Dyer's like, in Jeffrey Marks's book, Season of Life, he talks about this. I get off the plane and I had a call. Guess who the call was from?
From Jeffrey Marks.
He goes, hi, Peggy. I said, I was just reading about you. Oh my God. And he goes, I got your message yesterday. Can I help you? I said, well, I'd like to send you the online copy of the book.
Incredible.
And he said, send it to me. I'll see what I can do. And then a week later, I get an email, and it's from Jeffrey Marks, and it said, it was my endorsement. Wow. The first endorsement I got, he says, good people, good food, good stories. This book is Louisiana. Jeffrey Marks, Pulitzer Prize winner and author of Season of Life. My first endorsement for my first book was a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Well,
I mean, is that like God? Is that like putting it out in the universe? I mean, that's a sign
Peggy,
to me.
I want to say something. You said, you'd like let God take over, but you did stuff though.
Yes.
You didn't just sit
Yes.
there and have an idea.
Well, yes.
You had you
have to
took
take actions. Yeah. So I say
that's the thing.
God is my producer. I always say God is my producer, and my God. Sometimes you have to get a bigger God. Sometimes I think my God's limited, and I just have to get a bigger God and just know that I'm being taken care of. And when you come from a place of being in joy, it's the law of attraction. If you're what's joyful about today, if you sit around and go, oh, I have no money, I don't know what I'm doing, I want to stick my head in the oven, blah, 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 which I was in that place. And that's once you start going in that place, you go down in that spiral, and it's dark. It's dark. And so if you just stay every day like, okay, today I'm going to go for a walk in the park. I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to cook. I'm going to cook. I'm going to get in the kitchen. I'm going to cook.
So
that's going to make me feel good.
I have to ask you this to please share that famous recipe that is somehow 2 degrees connected to emerald that's in your book, because we have to share a recipe.
Okay,
that's
so this is
great.
funny.
Okay, because we only have about 4 minutes left.
I know.
So my girlfriend, actually, she is now married to Emerald. And years ago, we used to walk in the mornings to the French Quarter and walk. We'd smell beignets, and she'd go, "Oh my God, we should stop for beignets." And we always had a fantasy about stopping there and getting some beignets to go and eating them on the way back from our power walk, but we never did. But anyway, she would tell me we talk about food and recipes, and she told me this one recipe she had made: easy crawfish pasta, a bag of frozen crawfish tails, a bag of pasta, a block of Velveeta cheese, and a can of Rotel. And she said you mix it all up, and people are actually, licking the pot clean. And the funny thing is, my girlfriend would go on to marry Emerald years later, and to this day, I've yet to ask her if she's ever made the easy crawfish pasta for Emerald. But an even funnier story is Karen Benrud from Cafe Du Monde, who wrote the foreword for the book, and they gave me their history and vintage pictures. Karen texts me one day. She goes, "Hey, I made the easy crawfish pasta. It was to die for. People loved it. Everyone loved it." And I was like, "Really? I've never made it."
Oh, we have somebody calling in. And okay, you've got like 30 seconds. Who is it? Who's calling? Oh, did they hang up?
They hung up.
Oh my God, you had an opportunity to be on the air and you hung up on us. Oh my
Peggy,
goodness.
I can't believe it.
Peggy, this is great. I can't believe that our time is practically up. We have a few more minutes. We have literally 3 more minutes. Okay. So let's see. What were you going to say?
Do you want me to tell you where they can get the book?
Yes. Okay. Why don't you tell us where everyone can get the book?
Where they can get the book.
Because this book is a great gift item, but it's also something that you will love, and you'll just want to keep on your coffee table and pick up and read a story every now and then when you want to feel good, because it's one of those feel-good books.
And really great recipes.
Yes.
I mean, really great recipes.
Great recipes. So it's on Amazon in Louisiana. It's at Octavia Bookstore and all the gift shops in the French Quarter. But you can also get it at Barnes & Noble. I know Joanne went in there and they only had one left at the Grove. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they'll get some more. But Barnes & Noble has it online too, and Amazon. And of course you can go to Pelican Publishing. They have it online. And then if they go to meanwhile back at cafedumonde.com, I have a place you can click to Amazon to get it on my site. And then if you like it and you get it, please go on Amazon and write a little review. I know Sabrina, you did. That was really nice.
And do you have a website for this?
Meanwhile, back at cafedumonde.com. Also, I have a Peggy Sweeney McDonald, and the show is now available for nonprofit events or corporate events. I just got back from Mississippi doing it for the Passions of the Palate for the University of Southern Mississippi. It's a great event if you're looking for something different. It's a fun show to have for dinners.
And one thing I have to say about when you do these shows, you really let everybody just speak from the heart. You don't say.
It's true.
It's just so wonderful.
Yeah, there's no rehearsals,
Yes.
and there's it just is from the heart. And then we
have to. We've got to start wrapping it up. So
yes.
Any other places you want to?
SavoringTheSweetness.com.
SavoringTheSweetness.com. Also, you can Twitter. So you can follow Peggy on Twitter at Savoring the Sweetness.
No, Savoring Sweet.
Savoring Sweet
is what it is on Twitter.
On Twitter and
Cafe Du Monde.
Back Cafe Du Monde is my
Cafe
Twitter.
Du Monde.
And then on Facebook, I'm Peggy Sweeney McDonald. Meanwhile, Back at Cafe Du Monde and Savoring the Sweetness, all Facebook pages.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're so grateful that you're here. And next week we have an incredible guest. So join us next week for Kelly Lester. She is the momtrepreneur. You can look her up on Amazon.com for easy lunch boxes. And we are The Amazing Hour.
Yes.
And you can follow us on Twitter at The Amazing Hour. You can like our page on Facebook. You can text us and tell us how fabulous that we are.
Yes.
You can sponsor us.
Yes.
And eventually you're going to be able to buy that song because it's almost ready to be on iTunes. And I can't think of anything else.
If you know of anybody that you think is an everyday amazing superstar, please contact us because we're just open to celebrating everybody. And
we love
really
that. So you can contact us at Joanne or Sabrina at the-amazing-hour.com. And having said that, I'm just going to have another little beignet. Anybody want another beignet?
Congratulations, you two. You need to take those home. Get those
yes.
away from me. I just got back from 3.5 weeks in Louisiana. I ate lots of beignets.
We'll send one in the package with the book with Mariel.
I have powder all over me.
Great time, you guys. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you
I love
for being
y'all.
a great first guest and a wonderful guest.
And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Look at me. I'm coated.
So fun. Oh my gosh, so fun.
Oh, yes.
One, two, here we go with the attitude, yeah. I've been up and down, sideways, crossways, outside in and inside out. I took a rocket ride across the sky a couple times till the fire burned out.